So I had a couple questions, just
Sure.
basic preliminary, possibly. Maybe they're in depth, I don't know. It's obvious from looking in the Shulchan Aruch and in the Talmud in Masechet Shulat that conversions don't necessarily take a long time.
One has to do with mysticism. Two, it has to do with Zionism.
Okay.
Converting to Judaism nowadays has become a political process. They don't want people from the poorest countries in the world to immigrate to Israel and be a financial burden to them. So they limit what countries they accept conversions from, and they want to make it hard. For example, they don't perform conversions anywhere in South America or Latin America at all.
Oh, wow.
Because of this, conversions are really only performed in around 5% of the planet. People are lucky if they live in Australia, England, Canada, or the U.S., because anywhere else you can't get a conversion.
Oh, wow.
Or Israel.
So I see their reasoning in that, but that's still not
right.
Not
I mean,
how
not
it's supposed to be.
justified. What they're doing is that they're politicizing religion, and it's wrong.
That's weird.
I mean, I don't condone it. I'm against
Yeah.
it, and I have a video against it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some of your videos, and while I don't agree with everything, I do definitely, absolutely, 100% agree with you on how conversions are.
What don't you agree with? Give me something.
Well, like for example, the mysticism.
I'm not
It's
against
not that I don't
mysticism.
agree with you. I don't understand where you're coming from. Is
Uh-huh.
probably what I'm saying.
We're dealing with religion here. God is
Yeah.
spirits, and there's clearly a metaphysical aspect to it all. However, there's mysticism that arose post the 13th century in a book called the Zohar, which introduced new ideas that are antithetical to the Torah. Not only do they not appear in Torah, they actually war against its principles, like the notion of reincarnation, or the notion of a Jew being born, being endowed with a special Jewish soul, whether they're religious or not. And just because you happen to be born from a Jewish mother, it means that you're automatically intrinsically superior to every non-Jew in existence. That means like the best non-Jew doesn't compare to the worst Jew. When all that begins to affect how we relate to other people, that's what I war against. If you personally want to believe in reincarnation, you personally want to believe in this and that, and it's not going to affect the way you relate to, let's say, converts, then it's fine. But nowadays,
yeah, absolutely.
Chabad teaches that you cannot convert to Judaism. They believe that if you do convert to Judaism, it's because you are the reincarnation of a Jew who passed away. So that really dumbs down Judaism, because it's teaching that the only reason anyone would ever be interested in Judaism is because they're in some way spiritually, genetically disposed to want it, not because it makes sense. That means that it encourages them to torture converts even more, because they're saying only someone with a Jewish soul wouldn't give up. So all these things, they affect the way we relate to the rest of the world.
Okay, I get where you're coming from now.
I personally have mystical beliefs, mystical, personal, devotional beliefs. One, I don't believe the Torah commands me to have them. The Torah is a very amystical book, with the exception of God being a spirit. It doesn't mention an afterlife. It doesn't mention heaven or hell. But suddenly everything in Judaism or in religion nowadays is directed towards an afterlife.
Yeah.
And a Muslim wouldn't blow himself up if he wasn't promised 72 virgins. People wouldn't be converting to Christianity in mass if they weren't assured a free pass out of hell. And Jews won't lift a finger unless that credit is going to be stored for them in the afterlife. But it seems, if you read the Torah from Genesis to Deuteronomy, it seems that the people there did good for the sake of doing good, right? I mean, no one was promised heaven or hell. Yes, they were promised prosperity, but that was in this world. So it seems like they did good for the sake of doing good. So that seems to be the highest echelon, the highest understanding of ethics. Not doing A because you're promised B, but doing A because, you know what, it's the right thing to do. Many religious people are just immature nowadays.
So basically doing it for the sake of the reason that God said it, and not necessarily for what he said.
Well, not really. I don't think people should just obey God because it's God talking, but they should keep Torah because it works. God can say whatever he wants to say, but if he's telling you to do stuff that's going to make the world worse, then perhaps you shouldn't obey him, no matter who he claims to be. And we see that all the ethical components within Christianity and within Islam come from Torah. When people toss away those ethical components like the Soviet Union, we see that they leave a trail of carnage and blood. So we see that these principles have sensitized humanity, i.e. they work. That's my position. I'm not against the Zohar, but I'm against people calling it holy and divinely inspired. Because right when you consider something holy and divinely inspired, you can't disagree with it, all right? Especially if you're claiming it's the same author who authored the Torah, right? The same person who said do not kill is the same person who's telling you that non-Jews are intrinsically impure. And they do. I mean, they call the Zohar the Holy Zohar. I believe it was revealed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in a cave. As long as it doesn't affect doctrine, then it's cool. But right when you start formulating your whole religious existence around it, that's when the problem arises.
Yeah, okay, I would agree. I would definitely agree with that because, like you said, if it teaches certain things like that and it causes you to think something different other than what the Torah said about converts, then it's getting in the way of the Torah.
All right, next.
Okay. What about the Noahide laws? I'm not interested in that per se, but I want to know your.
I'm not against the Noahide laws. I am against the Noahide movement, though. Now, throughout history, there has never been a Noahide movement, and the reason there hasn't been a Noahide movement is because anyone who's familiar with the Noahide laws knows that every non-Jew is liable to death penalty for breaking any one of those laws. In other words, these laws belong in the Bronze Age, and that's pretty much where the Talmud states they were abolished in. At least that's one opinion. In other words, everyone, every Muslim, every Christian walks around keeping these 7 laws. If you believe Christianity is idolatry, then it would violate the first one. But Christians don't consider themselves idolaters, and I don't consider them idolaters for other reasons. But in terms of the ethical portions of that law code, I think the other 2 major world religions adhere to it. So I think it's just a big waste of time, and it's offered nowadays as an alternative to people who want to convert. I mean, how can you say that 7 laws is an alternative to 613 laws? I mean, there's no law there to love your neighbor, to stand up for the weak, to fight evil. I mean, So it's just a waste of time, in my opinion. I don't believe it's evil. I just think that this Noahide movement would never have gotten off the ground if the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't feel that he was about to enter a Messianic age. And one of the realities of the Messianic age is that non-Jews are compelled to live by these 7 laws of Noah, and that's why he was pushing them. And also, it was a good way to keep the bloodline, the gene pool, pure in Judaism by finally having an alternative to Judaism to offer people who are interested in Judaism, which is the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, the average person who I know who's become a Noahide has either converted to Judaism or has become an atheist. Because,
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Noahides have no community. I mean, like, where are they going to pray? Who are their kids going to marry? Where are they going to congregate? It's not realistic to offer someone an unviable alternative to the religion that they just left. And if someone came from Islam or Christianity with its laws and codes of ethics, and now you're basically telling them, okay, live by 7 laws, and that's it. I mean, who could you date? Okay, you could date an atheist, you could date a Muslim. It's nonsense. And everything I teach is according to the Talmud. There's nothing in Jewish law that contradicts what I teach. According to Mishneh Torah, Serbia, it says that if someone comes to convert, from the outset we encourage him, unless he turned back to the bad path that he came from. So in other words, the rabbis themselves call living a Noahide existence the bad path, because every non-Jew is a Noahide whether he accepts the Noahide laws or not. You're either a Ben or a Bat Noah.
Yeah.
So this whole thing that was really pushed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that if God made you a Gentile, you should be proud to be a Gentile, and if God made you a Jew, you should be proud to be a Jew, is nonsense. I mean, if God made you with bad vision, should you not get glasses? Even we circumcise ourselves when God made us with a foreskin. So it doesn't compute. So that's where I think that too. Now, if someone wants to be a Noahide, I mean, I just think it's a waste of time. I don't think, they're doing anything evil. It clearly exists in Jewish law. I don't think it's something for us to aspire to. I mean, you should aspire to be a Jew. If someone comes to you and they want to enter the medical field, right, and you care about this person, what are you going to tell them? Be a nurse or strive to be a doctor? Of course, strive to be a doctor. Okay, you can't be a doctor. You're already a nurse, so just, be happy with what you are. Okay, but from the outset, to offer him the Noahide laws, when this person coming to convert could be the greatest Jew. I mean, he could bring the world closer to the Messianic age. He could, whatever. The reason they don't ask that question is because mysticism has made Jews nowadays anti-non-Jew. So they don't really want you as part of their people. Because if they did, they'd show a little more interest in gathering you in.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah, that's true.
Go for it.
I totally understand what you mean by how it's not a reasonable step, because when I first started realizing this and I came out of Christianity, I saw the Noahide the whole Noahide stuff, and I thought, okay, so there has to be a community. So I looked it up, and there's like one in the middle of Israel, maybe.
Nah, there ain't no.
So
Trust me, there is no Noahide community in Israel. For one, because
well,
Noahide
yeah,
till now are not offered a resident status in Israel. In other words, if you're a Noahide, you're not going to get citizenship in Israel. So that means the max you could stay there unless you're learning in a school is 90 days. Now, there's this ridiculous Sanhedrin that they just created that is creating a Noahide status, but not politically, but just to give these people a bone to chew on. That's not recognized by the government. So there is no Noahide community anywhere. I mean, there may be maybe two families somewhere that kind of huddle together, but the only reason they don't convert is because you're either not in a Jewish community or just not serious enough about religion to do so. Trust me, if all the commandments in the Torah are too much for people to keep, then don't convert. Don't say you're becoming a Noahide because you're already a Noahide. I mean, Noahide just means that you're judged by 7 laws according to the Sanhedrin. We don't have a Sanhedrin nowadays. Jewish mysticism has made it that it's laws God judges you against if you're a non-Jew, but that's midrashic agad. It's not something you have to believe. But
yeah, and I thought it was an odd. Like when I first started talking to rabbis, I thought it was odd because I said I wanted to convert, and then they said, "Well, in mind that you could just be a Noahide because it's a lot easier." I'm like, but I said I wanted to convert.
yeah, no, you should ask them the question that if they found out tomorrow that their grandmother wasn't Jewish, would they remain a Noahide or would they convert to Judaism themselves? I mean, what's good for the goose, right? Of course they would convert because they know that being a Noahide is a joke. The only reason they offer it to you is they don't give a crap about you and they want you to go away.
Yeah, I thought that was an odd response to somebody who wants to convert, especially seeing how much the Torah says you should love the person who wants to convert and the person who has converted.
The problem in the Jewish world. All right, next.
Yeah. Do I have to move to a community if I'm going to convert?
Not according to Jewish law, but nowadays they won't convert you unless you're in a community.
So, based on the halacha, you could, but...
Right, I mean, it doesn't mention that. It's clearly a good idea.
Yeah, obviously.
You know, I mean, if you convert and you move back to South Dakota, you're still a Jew, for sure. It's hard and really pointless to be Jewish if you're going to be alone.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that.
And mainly because repairing this world is a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these ceremonial laws, almost all of them, are kind of set in a communal setting. It's going to be hard and pointless, in my opinion. I mean, you could start your own community. I mean, you could put it on Craigslist, say, Shabbat meals in my house, Bible study, Torah study, whatever. And then in 10 years, you could have 1,000 people there. Unless you're going to do that, I don't recommend converting if you don't live in a Jewish community.